All right, it is June 30th, 2025. I am in Lanier Lake, Georgia, on Lanier Island. It's not bad. I'd never even heard of this place 24 hours ago. Got a lot to say today, but this will probably be my last super long video, I hope. Anyhow, I've met a lot of people the last few days. If I remember correctly, I've met around 20 something people face to face, shaking hands, told you very briefly who I am and what I'm doing, and you've found some kindness in your heart to A, give me the space to share with you, and then to B to subscribe to my new YouTube channel. So we're growing. There's a handful of people back home that are subscribed to me. So a majority of you I've met on this journey, and that means the world to me. And for the ones back home, thank you guys all. So I know I keep saying unscripted and and there's a lot of truth to that, and I'm going to get into it. But right now, I am going to try to do some things different. The last few days of my life have been incredible. God keeps talking to me. I keep listening. I've questioned him a few times. I've been a little lost, but still on the path, and there's lessons there too. So it's been very rewarding. And I can honestly say that every single day has just gotten a little bit better than the day before. So pretty neat. So I've written some things down. I'm going to try to go through that. You're going to see me looking over here. I'm looking at my computer going back and forth. So bear with me, all right? Okay, yep. I met the most wonderful people in the last 72 hours. And I came out here to Lanier Island to just be by myself. However, God has a plan. And I met Christopher, George, Sable, and Vivi since I've been here. And all 4 of you have subscribed. That means the world to me. Thank you. And the other 75 who've decided to follow along. Again, I can't articulate how much it means to me to have you guys in my corner. I'm on a mission, and your support does mean everything to me, so thank you. So where am I at today? Lanier Lake, Georgia, Lanier Island. Funny thing is, I was stationed here in Georgia about 20 years ago, and I never ventured north. I went as far as Pensacola and Panama City south, but Atlanta was as far north as I ever went to explore, and I really regret that now that I'm standing here at this beautiful place. Wow. I can see it in the background, but it doesn't actually do it justice. Let me see here. Okay, so stationed south of here. I thought it'd be a good chance to come check this out. But before I tell you that, I want to tell you just a quick story. I was thinking about it today, and again, because there's so many of you that are following me who've just met me on this journey, you really don't have any idea who I am or what I'm about, right? Or where I come from. Like, you don't know my story, and that's okay. Thank you again for taking a leap and trusting me, and scanning that QR code and coming along for the ride. I told you I had something to share, so here I am. All you knew about me was I was riding my Harley across the country and trying to raise some awareness for PTSD and suicide. So I feel perhaps I owe it to you a little bit to tell you a little bit about myself, so you understand the space that I'm operating from. I was born in Stockton, California in 1985. I grew up a 90s kid, riding my bike around that town. I felt like a minority as a white kid. No big deal. I never really thought twice about that until I joined the Army, and I met at least one person that had never seen somebody of color before, so I thought that was odd. Being a white kid in Stockton, I was jumped, bullied, and always felt like I was an outsider. It's probably because I went to at least 10 different schools before I graduated high school. Both of my parents were addicts, and I found my mom dead when I was 16 while I was holding my baby in my arms. I became a father at 15. I joined the Army at 17 because I had a family, and all I knew is that I wanted to be an Army Ranger, and I couldn't work at Mervin's forever. I love that place, but can't stay there forever, right? So I shipped out in the Army of 2003, and while I was in basic training, one of my drill sergeants was killed. My platoon sergeant, Drill Sergeant Pasquale Murillo. He was about 20 feet behind me. It was a freak accident on the night infiltration course, but he was hit by a machine gun round in the hip, and he bled out pretty quick. So that was like my intro into the Army, just kind of like dealing with my mom's stuff that I suppressed, and then my drill sergeant that I didn't really know much about him. I didn't know, I knew that he was kind to me. Even though he's a drill sergeant, he still took the time to make sure I could call home, to talk to my kids. He knew I was a young father, and I think he found kindness in his heart. And I also knew he had 6 kids. I found that out at his memorial service. So, I've carried that one around a long time. Yes, forgive me guys, I'm trying to stay on it here. Yep, my heart bleeds for his kids now. Yeah, I do. I still think about them from time to time, and I know the pain that they endured, so I wonder how their lives turned out. I hope that they're doing well. And I was right, let me see here. Then I became an MP and eventually on to work for Army CID. That let the death and mayhem continue, I say here. I used to go to autopsies because I found the human anatomy to be fascinating. I still do. I was just an MP investigator, but I was working for the CID office at the time, and anytime they needed an all hands on deck, or if anybody want to go help, yeah, I'll go. And I didn't realize like that I was going to carry it all. Every single one of they're all laid out on tables depending on how big the morgue is. Sometimes there's 50 bodies, sometimes there's 10, sometimes there's just one. All shapes and sizes, men, women, children. So I didn't know it at the time, but I carried all of that too, and I do remember thinking or wondering what their stories were, and what led to them getting onto that cold metal table, and if there was anybody back home that was wrecked just like I was when I found my mom. So I guess I'm a bit of an empath in that regard, but yeah. The inside of a human smells just like the inside of a pig, by the way. Weird fact I know from experience. In 2005, I deployed to Baghdad, and I had to leave my wife and kids behind. Leaving my family that day in Louisiana still haunts me to this day. All of our lives changed the moment I was forced to pry my daughters off my feet. I'll never forget that, standing in line, and every step of the way I had one daughter on my left foot and one daughter on my right, and then there was time where they couldn't be there anymore, and we literally had to pry them off. So everything for all of us changed that day, and I learned that war brings out the worst in men. I can't count the amount of death and destruction I saw daily whilst assuming I was going to be the next one to go. All I cared about was getting myself and my team home. But not everyone makes it home from war. My company lost 3 people total and sustained 70-something Purple Hearts, if I'm not mistaken. God had other plans for me. I came home without a scratch on my body, but my mind was broken. I hid it well. I hid it very well. Those of you who knew me during that time can probably account that I was just an alcoholic and liked to crack a lot of jokes. So that was how I masked my pain. But I was a cop after all, so all I had to do was just be a bigger asshole than you, and my badge would back it up. That and self-medicating to the point of alcoholism. I continued to work as a CID agent for several years and talked to a lot of bad people. I did solve a murder once. That was the highlight of my career. This sick son of a bee killed his daughter and got away with it for 5 years until he sat in the box with me. And it was something like 22 hours over 2 days, but he confessed to hurting a lot of children and ultimately killing his daughter. So I'm very proud that he's behind bars now. But again, I was absorbing all of it, even talking to that guy for so long, listening to his story without wanting to rip his throat out, letting him tell me all the gruesome details. I didn't write this down. I just remembered this. I cried so hard driving home that night after that interrogation. Man. So, this is me in real time, experiencing an emotion from the past while trying to remain present. All I want to do is break down and cry. Everything in my body feels that way. So, where was I? I didn't realize it, but I was absorbing all of it, day in and day out. And then I went to Afghanistan, and another marriage down the shitter. I came home feeling lost, angry, and I just wanted out of the army. People asked me what I was going to do, and all I would say is, I don't know, but I'm going to grow my beard out. It's good to have goals, right? So I was broken and lost, chasing money and women around. My priorities were all out of whack, because I'd rather do anything than sit with the pain that was lingering. I wouldn't let myself feel anything bad for more than a second without compartmentalizing it immediately. It's a skill I learned when my mom died. But I got out in 2013 with an honorable discharge, and I've been struggling with PTSD and suicide ever since. This year, before my trip, I ended a marriage that I was holding on to for dear life. She's my best friend, and I miss her every day. But it was toxic. And I recently, while we were fighting, still trying to figure things out, was seriously contemplating taking my life, and for some reason that was all I could do was say that to, like, hey, I can't take much more of this. I'm about to just, and we're fighting, and everything was elevated, and she goes, do it, you piece of shit, and I know she didn't mean it. I know she didn't. And I'm not trying to throw any shade at her, because I know more than anyone that you say things you don't mean when you're upset. But what I realized in that very moment, as I hung up the phone, is that maybe I wasn't in a good situation. That maybe I needed to do something different. Or maybe just that no matter how bad I wanted to, we would never be able to heal together to get to a place to where we could be happy and whole and authentic together. So I ended my marriage. I filed the paperwork, planned this trip, decided, Bottom line is that needed to happen. I've been looking for something to shift for a long time, and those of you who know me back home know exactly what I'm talking about. And that was the shift I needed. I needed to see that I wasn't in a good situation, and that I needed to make some changes. All I knew is I was scared. And when I mean scared, like, the amount of fear that consumed my everything is difficult to articulate. Yeah, and I knew that if I walked away that I'd truly be alone again in this world, right? That was a big feeling that consumed me. I guess I thought I had it figured out, just like everything else, right? I had the house and the family and the yard and the cars and the trailer and the truck and bullshit, 6-figure salary. I had everything I had ever wanted in my life, and it all imploded. And it was my fault because I hadn't figured any of this stuff out, you know. It all came burning down around me, right? But let me see here. Again, it wasn't the first time, but I guess some part of me thought I figured it out and I was safe and I never needed to worry about that again. How wrong I was. Anyhow, it was a moment I decided that I was going to take this trip to West Virginia to put my grandfather to rest solo. I think that day or in that time frame, my cousin had texted me the hotel information and said, make your reservations now before it's too late. So I called him that day, and the nicest guy you'll ever meet, Kevin, in Romney, West Virginia, says, are you flying in or driving in? And I said, you know, Kevin, I might ride my Harley out there. And here I am. So I took off, and then basically all of the videos up to this point should bring you up to speed, but that's me in a big ass nutshell, a 16-minute nutshell there. I tried to stick to as much of the script as I could because I wanted to highlight some points that I thought were relevant for you to know about me, so you know where I come from. And when I say that I'm trying to spread PTSD and suicide awareness, I hope that you understand that I do mean business. I don't aim to gain any recollection or recognition. I really don't care. I am A-okay riding my Harley all over the country and meeting people and just engaging. That would just be beautiful, but I do genuinely feel that God has called me to do something. So the last time I sat down to do this, I was in Everglades City, Florida. I was on fire that day as God continued to bless me along my journey. I made new friends and was able to spread my message. What a blessing in and of itself. But I woke up the next morning ready to hold myself accountable. I talked about going for a run in my video, so I did. It was amazing and exactly what I needed. Not only did I feel good from the endorphins pumping, but I feel like a rock star for showing up for myself. Doesn't seem like much, but it is, at least to me. I try to reinforce the positive behavior by celebrating in a way that deserves to be celebrated. That reinforces the positive behavior. Anyhow, as I packed up Yolanda, I had one objective on my mind, a 700+ mile trip to Athens, Georgia. All I knew for certain was there was a CVMA national rally there, and someone in that group needed to hear what I had to say. That literally was just this thought that just kept replaying over and over and over in my head. That thought and that thought alone motivated me as I spent the next 22 hours making my way north. When I say God spoke to me that night, I'm not exaggerating. I talked to him all night long. The only thing that kept resonating through my mind was save one life. I knew in my heart nearly every single one of the men in that room had been down a similar road that I have, whether they wanted to admit it or not. And as I made my way north, I checked into as many Harley dealerships as I could. The last one was in Macon, Georgia. I got there and the sun was rising, and when I say it was the most magnificent sunrise I've ever seen, that's an understatement. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw the videos. I couldn't help but drop to my knees and pray. I thank God for getting me there in one piece. I asked him for protection as I embarked on the last leg of my journey to Athens, about an hour and a half, if I remember correctly. And all of that was magical, you know. But there was a moment right after that. I got this on video too. But I stood up. I was praying towards the sunrise to the east. My bike was behind me, and I turn around. Wow. Glad I did that. I turn around to walk back to my bike, and there's a rainbow just over my motorcycle. And I don't know why, but it was pretty darn emotional. It was like I felt, and I don't care what anybody else says, that God was telling me that I was on my path. And that was pretty cool. right? So I had like all these big ideas in my head about how it was all going to go, but I'll get into that. Yep. I checked into the last one was in Georgia. Sorry guys, bear with me. There we go. As I pulled into where the rally was, I had a little bit of a mishap. I grew impatient behind the car at a green light. In my defense, we were sitting there for a few seconds and it looked like he was on his phone. So I zipped around the guy and kept it moving. I was like 2 minutes away from my final destination and didn't have any more patience left in me. I mean, I literally hadn't slept. I rode all night long. And this guy got pissed and he almost hit me with his vehicle. I was in the left side of the lane and he encroached. I look over and his side mirror is at my side mirror. So I gassed it and got around him, and I think I even went through a light. Fucking crazy, man. I was so tired. Stupid. And I get up to the rally and I thought that I ditched the guy, and he pulls in behind me with all the brothers everywhere, you know. So I'm like, hey, this guy wants some smoke. I told 2 guys I didn't even know him. I'm like, I don't know what his deal is, but he's fucking with me right now, you know. And the dude rolls down his back window and we exchange some words, not nice ones. And then he pulls out his freaking hat and he's in the same club I'm in. So, lessons. Even when you're tired, walk the walk. No excuses. That was a whole mess of problems that I could have blown way out of proportion quickly, all because I didn't want to wait an extra second or two. I point this out because it was all part of my path, right? I needed to be humbled there, and I needed to remember to slow the heck down. So here I am, 22 hours deep, no sleep, running on nothing but gas station coffee, food, and coconut water. If you know anything about me, I would never eat that crap on a day-to-day basis, minus the coconut water. So my body's hurting, even right now. As I sit here, my diet the last month is affecting my health, but I'm trying to do my best to exercise and eat healthy when I can. So I look forward to when I can fast again. I'm afraid to fast now because I'm riding all the time, and it's like I just need to make sure I'm eating and staying. But man, if you've never fasted, look into it. Look into some intermittent fasting. It's a game changer. Anyhow, I was frazzled and exhausted, but the day had just started. I could tell, everybody else was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they've been waiting for months or all year for this event. And I just found out about it maybe a couple days before, and then God told me to get my butt up there to ride all night, So I did. And let's see here. Yeah, so I was frazzled and everything. Just it's time to hunker down. I gathered myself as best as I could and I proceeded inside. I stuck out like a sore thumb. You guys have seen my brown vest. I'm the only guy wearing a brown leather vest in all of the CVMA. Cool. I don't care about that, but let's just say I stuck out. And then I was the only guy who didn't have a patch on. So not only did I stick out, but then the sergeants at arms and the people who were just doing their jobs were kind of up my ass wondering what the hell I was doing there. I had to kind of prove myself there. And, hey, it was a whole thing. But I needed to be there. I mean, there was like, I don't know, it seemed like there was at least 4,000 or 5,000 people there, but I honestly have no clue. It was a indoor arena and it was full all the way up to the nosebleeds. But I don't know how many people were there. I'm making guesses. There's 20-something thousand members total in the CVMA, and a good portion of them made it to their national meeting. So, but God told me to talk to them, and I was like, huh? I remember like on the way, I was thinking like, all right, I got to find a way to like let somebody know, and like maybe they could put my QR code up on the up on the screen, and everybody can scan it, and then they could watch my videos, and I was scared. It was fear, right? I was afraid I was gonna muck it up. But he said, what better way to spread the word than with a microphone in front of thousands of people? Instant fear. I knew I needed to look at that. And I asked myself what I was afraid of, and mucking it up was the answer. And then I remembered, just one person needs to hear this. So that was the reminder I needed. And as I waited patiently for my chance to grab the mic, it was a little confusing. It was my first rally. It was my second meeting, my first rally, first national. So I had no idea how everything went, like the sequence of events. I was just told that there would be a chance, like a good for the order kind of chance at the end. And I was like, all right, well, I'll wait for that. And then like 2 hours later, let me see, make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, that's right. So I'm sitting there, and a voice from the past came echoing from the line. Matt Wolford blared across the floor, and I looked up, and it was one of my old mentors from Hawaii, circa 2009. Al is his name. And I was overjoyed, elated to see Al. I actually tried to link up with him in Texas on my way through, and it didn't work out. I had no idea he was going to be at the Nationals. I forgot that he had joined the CVMA. So the whole thing was like yet again, like another blessing on a blessing. It just keeps happening. This trip is full of them. Yeah, I tried to link up with them. I tell you that. So here we are, just as God has planned. And it was an emotional embrace for me. I needed that hug. Thanks, Al. I had only met one other person there, and he was from a chapter in Florida. We met when I was getting my Harley worked on in Miami. Thanks again for the follow, Eric. Appreciate you, brother. I'll let you know when the book's coming out. Thank you for asking. Point was, I was in a room of thousands, and I was alone. Or at least that's how I felt, even though I knew a couple people. They were off doing their own thing, so I'm sitting off by myself. I think there's 3 people from my chapter somewhere else. I didn't know where they were. I didn't really feel like looking for them. I was so tired. Yep. Okay. After my buddy walked away, I sat back down. I looked up and saw a chaplain. 9line is his name. Thanks for the subscription, 9line, and thanks for your words, man. I'm going to talk about you for a second. I figured anyone who wears chaplain on their vest is ready to listen. And I asked if I could share my story, and he allowed me the space to do so. He then proceeded to say a prayer of protection for me. And if you've been following along, man, I needed that one too. Thank you. It was very significant to me, and it was just what I needed. I was so nervous to get on the mic. Old me would have hid in the corner, signed in to get credit, and proceeded to get hammered so I didn't have to feel socially awkward. I did none of the above. I learned on this trip, if I start to operate from a space of fear, do the opposite of what feels instinctual. So after about 2 hours of slideshows and voting, I finally got a chance to grab the mic. I was the first one to speak up and say I had something for the group. Yep, I do. Everybody's like, oh yeah, what's this guy got to say? And in my head, I had all of these. Oh man, there's deer right here. No way. Hold on. Check this out. I don't know if you can see him back there. Oh dear. In my head, I had jokes lined out. I'd kind of had like this little bullet points, like my little elevator pitch, and reality hit a whole lot different. It was a train wreck, and I was the conductor. it was an absolute shite show, I'll say, or at least that's how I felt when I walked out of there. I was having microphone issues. They couldn't hear me no matter how close or far away it was. It was more of that than anything else. And then at one point I made eye contact with a woman, and she rolled her eyes at me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm dead. Literally, I was mortified. I felt this big in a room of a couple thousand people. I guess you could say I was discouraged. But I said what I needed to say, and I walked out of there with my head up. Albeit I was confused, I walked away with my head up. I think I was tired more than anything. Also, it was a wreck. Nothing went like I planned for it to, so part of me was like, that's what you wanted me to do, God? Like, why'd you make me do that? You know? So I was kind of in that space. And my friend Al, who I ran into, hooked me up with the room, man. Thanks, Al and Brian, for taking care of me, and I really appreciate that. I was worn thin, and I needed shelter and a shower, and I appreciate you boys. I also want to thank you, Al, for reminding me, as I sat there feeling all out of sorts about the whole thing, that the people that need to hear the word of God the most are the ones who are least receptive to it. That was a very powerful statement that you made to me, my friend, and it will be a driving force for me the rest of my life. Thank you. So I stayed up as late as I could to connect with Al, but eventually I had to call it a night. I realized it was Saturday night and I was close to Atlanta. That meant I was close to the church 2819. And I wasn't going to miss that for the world. So I got my butt up at 04:30 and I got down the road. It was a peaceful and brisk ride in Atlanta that morning. It was very nice. It was cool out. Old me probably would have resorted to pulling over and putting on my leather, but I've been hot and sweaty for the last week riding around Florida. It was nice to be chilly. It was almost like cold plunging. I just had to do my box breathing and was able to get through the ride. It was about an hour and a half. Oh yeah, peaceful right into Atlanta. The skies were blue and the city was magnificent. It was like everything was brisk and clear and crisp. I wish I could have slowed down or taken pictures or videos, but my camera points to my right side, and the city line, the skyscrapers were all on my left, but it was like being in a video game. It was vivid, is all I can say. But even then, as I was zipping through Atlanta at 80 miles an hour, I couldn't help but second guess what I was doing, right? Like, why am I going to this church, and what do I hope to gain? And well, let's just say there was a lot of noise, and my ego tried to talk me out of going altogether, even as I was 20 minutes away. You know, you're likely to have your bike stolen, and no one there cares about what you're doing, Matt. These are all things that are going through my head. So I sat with that feeling, and I kept heading towards my destination. I didn't know what to expect. Got to the church. It was smooth. It's in a neighborhood outside of College Park, just outside of Atlanta. Kind of reminded me of where I grew up at in Stockton. The streets never sleep. As I was getting gas outside of the church, a homeless woman asked me if I could buy her a Black and Mild, but the guy inside the store wouldn't sell it to me because she has to smoke one every 5 minutes. He wouldn't even let her come into the store. It made me feel bad, but it also made me instantly put my guard up. I always think of my dad anytime I see someone struggling like that, and it instinctively gets me triggered. And then I treat them according to how I feel about my dad. I've realized this on my journey, that we're all one and the same, and I'm trying to show up different. So I gave her a Black and Mild out of my pocket, and I said, that's bad for you and God loves you, but here you go. She ran over because I was on my bike, and I stopped at the sidewalk as I was leaving. And she ran over to me and she gave me a hug. So I hugged her back. And I hope she finds God, because I know that He's waiting for her. So I'll be honest, I had some expectations when I got to the church. I wanted to see Pastor Michael Philip Anthony. If you haven't heard of this guy, if you haven't heard him speak, I recommend it. His words inspired me to make change in my life. Just find out for yourself. Unfortunately, he wasn't there, but I didn't know that at the time. So I did what I do, and I walked around and introduced myself. I met at least 6 different people at Church 2819, and all of them subscribed to my channel. Thank all of you for taking a risk or just having a moment of kindness in your heart to hear me out and to potentially follow along. Your support does mean everything to me, and I'm not just saying that, okay? I am trying to read, but I'm trying to come across as across from my authentic self. It's very, reading a script and doing so can be difficult, but I wrote the script, so just cut me some slack, all right? Anyhow, right out of the gate, I got introduced to one of the casting directors. I thought this ought to be good, and then I was one of the first 30 people in the door, and I thought, cool, now I'll be right up front for Pastor Michael. This ought to be good, perfect. As things kicked off, I could feel the Spirit in me. My skin was tingling, and I knew I was in the house of the Lord with fellow believers. That's a good feeling. There's not a soul in that building who didn't have faith. Everyone there waited for hours outside in a line that wrapped around the building. It's a thing here in Atlanta. Somehow, though, I was able to sneak into the back gate. I pulled right up to the front, and he said, "You can't park here." And I told him, "Well, look, man, I rode my Harley here from California. I'm not trying to give you any attitude, but what do you recommend I do?" And he said, "Well, you know what? Go around the back." And I was like, all right. And then he showed me where it was on the map, so I rode there. And they let me in, and I was the first one in the parking lot. I had the closest parking spot to the building, and there was nobody behind the building, which, come to find out, was the main entrance. So I was right where I needed to be, on accident. Thank you, God. Yep, that's right, parking lot. Anyways, I realized that the pastor I wanted to see was gone, and someone else was filling in for him. Stand-in, I thought, or at least my ego shouted, and then God reminded me why I was there. The one thing that I kept thinking while I was questioning my decision on the way into Atlanta was to be in the house of the Lord to receive his word, right? I kept saying, like, why are you going? Like, what do you hope to gain? Like, just go sit in the house of the Lord, Matt. Just go sit there and listen to his word and see where it goes, okay? And I don't know why, but it was an uncomfortable space for me. And it always has been. I struggle to go and sit in church, or at least I used to. I think I figured out why, but I don't want to digress too much. Some part of me wanted to be anywhere else but there, but I told him to shut the F up, and I sat there and listened, and I took diligent notes. And within the first 30 seconds, maybe even the first thing out of it, there were so many notes that I took, but the synchronicities on this trip are incredible. Like on the trip versus what I'm currently experiencing versus the message I'm trying to push versus the theme of my book versus, you know what I mean, versus my personal trials, like, and everybody in that room felt the same way, you know. So that was something that empowered me a little bit. I thought, all right, you know, maybe I'm not so far off track, I guess. I don't know, something like that. But oh yeah, it definitely confirmed a couple of things. Number one, I need to lean into fear. There's something there, and more importantly, we're all the same, just trying to figure it out. So I left the church. I was a bit confused, and for the first time on this trip, I didn't know what I was going to do next. I was supposed to link up with my little sister, but timing got the best of me. Sorry, little sis. I will come back to see you, I promise. And I was so very confused, though. I remember calling a friend of mine, and I can hear the confusion in my own voice. It made me want to get off the phone instantly and like just go sit by myself and collect myself. I was frazzled. I think the last 48, 72 hours, last 30 days have gotten to me. Nothing was going as planned in my head. You know, I had some expectation when I got to the church, but I don't know what it was. But it wasn't met. I know that much. So I walked away feeling a certain way. But I guess God has other plans, right? And that's the point of all of this. I'm realizing at nearly 40 years old that every single time I try to control a situation or an outcome, I muck it up in one way or the other. But I can honestly say, and every single person that's spent any time with me in the last 30 or 31 days, I'm vibrating right now, you know? I feel more on fire and alive than I ever have in my life. And that's a pretty amazing feeling. It's actually awkward to talk about, but I feel it's important to say, because if I don't say it, then it's like, what's the point of all this, right? And like, I genuinely feel better than I ever have, and I'm meeting new people every single day, and every single day has been an adventure that's been relatively unscripted, you know, as much as I can allow. And the parts that are scripted that I'm mucking up, I'm trying to take a look at that stuff too, and make sure that I let go and let God a little bit, you know. But still, I felt lost. I think the constant engaging with people takes a toll on you after a while. It's my favorite thing to do, so I'm not trying to like say woe is me or anything like that, but operating from an authentic space and trying to truly connect with each person and retain all of that information, it's taxing. It's like constantly having to be on my game, you know, because if you care, then you pay attention. And if you pay attention, at least for me, it takes effort, especially with day in, day out, like I've been doing. So it's a blessing, but I think it started to wear on me. Yep. I feel like I give all of my energy trying to understand and connect, and that is a blessing. But at this point in my journey, or at least last night, I just needed sleep, and a lot of sleep. So I took out my maps on my phone and I looked northeast of Atlanta, and there it is. Here I am, Lanier Lake. I said, oh, that looks cool. How have I never noticed that before, remembering how I was stationed here for 2.5 years. What a clown. And to think I also could have seen the Georgia Guidestones in real life. Man, I didn't know anything about Georgia when I lived down here. It's too bad. Anyhow, next step, is there a hotel on this cool lake I didn't even know that was here 5 minutes ago? Yep. A couple of phone calls and some smoozing, and yours truly is in here for half the price for 2 nights. So that's pretty cool, man. And I got in, it was just about dark, you know, the sun was going down. I think there was a little bit of sun still, but I couldn't really tell what was going on. And quite frankly, I was so tired. There was a certain amount of stress that I wasn't paying attention to anything else. I was just looking for a hotel. I actually drove around the island like 2 times to find this place, and it's not that big of an island, so I don't think I was operating on all of my cylinders. I went straight to the bar and I ordered a beer. That's the first thing. I'm gonna be honest, okay? I'm keeping my sobriety in check. I'm not drinking to excess. But after the couple of days that I had, I felt like I'd earned a beer, and I'm on this journey, so I treated myself to a beer. I chose to indulge. And I ate a phenomenal burger and fries, and then I checked in. And that's when I met Christopher. Thanks for the follow. I found the pool. I did some laps. There was a wedding going on. So even though I was feeling a bit gloomy for some reason, I couldn't help but feel some happiness creep in. Like watching 2 families come together. Like, it was a pretty beautiful thing, and everybody was super pumped to be there. So I tried to hold on to that, and I took my butt to bed. I needed sleep. I think I finally got to bed at like 10:30 or 11. And I woke up this morning about an hour before the sunrise. Boop. I think I got maybe 6 or 7 hours of sleep. There's no complaints there, but I've learned to wake up when the Lord wants me to wake up. That's if he says wake up, then it's time to get up. So I don't go back to sleep. And I feel like if I do, then I'm slapping him in the face. Or at least that's what's helped me from from sleeping in, right? So I just have to think about like how I want to show up. The Lord wants me to wake up, and then I wake up. So, all right. But I woke up this morning an hour before the sunrise and got maybe 6 or 7 hours of sleep. No complaints. But I've learned that I wake up when the Lord wants me to, going back to sleep, slapping on the face. Oh, it reminds me of a Rumi quote, okay? The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. I've been unpacking that quote for years. So now you got it. Google it. Play it back. Run it back, y'all. But it has some depth to it. And it's had an impact on how I show up. At least in the mornings. Oh, turn the brightness up. Okay. So, I learned that from somebody a few years ago who was a friend of mine, and I'm grateful for that nugget that I got from him. Take your lessons and you move on. My lesson: don't go back to sleep. I'm awake for a reason, so I'm going to do something with it. Here I am. Side note: this is a true story. For the 5 or 6 days leading up to this trip, I was awoken by a bird tapping on my window above my bed every single morning, a half hour before the sunrise. Not kidding. I got videos and pictures for proof. Some of my friends back home even heard me complain about it initially, or maybe telling the story after I came. But I talked about it. I was like, man, I thought I was going to get to sleep in. Had this big trip coming up. I was going to get some extra sleep because I knew I was going to be on the road for a while. That's kind of what I was, going through my head or whatever. And God had other plans. Don't go back to sleep. I even tried to kill that bird, being honest with you. But after like the third day, I realized, oh, okay, God, you want me to wake up, right? Because I tried to, the first 2 days I fought it. I tried to shoo the bird. I went back to bed. No matter what, I put lawn chairs in front of the windows. I'm out there with my broom, shooing it off, chased it into a tree. And no matter what, ding, 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 ding. It's the craziest thing. So, God was waking me up for something. I just didn't know what it was at the time. Anyhow, my ego wanted to go back to bed, but I told that little bitch to shut up and strap in. We've got life to live. My room has a door at the ground level, something I never would have done in the past, but due to operational security concerns, right? So, never be a vulnerable target. Staying off the first floor is rule number 1. Silly, I know, but I still struggle with sitting with my back to the door in public places. Old habits die hard. The reward of having a room on the ground floor? Well, I was able to walk out and look to the east, only to see the sun starting to rise through the trees all over the lake. I had no idea what kind of a view I had from my room because it was pitch black when I got in there, but I could see the sunrise from it. And wouldn't you know it, there's a sidewalk going down to an outlook. Don't mind if I do. I got down to Oliver Point here at the Legacy Resort Hotel on Lanier Island, and it's absolutely a place people spend big money to come and get married at. I don't know that I could afford to get married here. It's beautiful, but it just has the most magnificent views, 360 all the way around the island. Everywhere I look is something pretty. Even right now, I wish I was taking pictures of that. I'll let you guys see it. So I walked down there to Oliver Point, and when I got down there, I looked at just past the point. It's all cemented, and there's like an archway, and that's where everybody stands under to get married. And there's a swinging bench or whatever, chair swing, right close to the water. Don't mind if I do. So I sat there and I watched the sunrise, and I meditated on a rock before that. Forgot about that. There's a rock there, and I sat there, and then I looked past the rock, and there's the swing. So I went to the swing, and I talked to God, and I asked him why I'm here, if I was on the right path, and what the last couple of days meant, what to do. And then I prayed, and I listened, and I waited, and I couldn't really hear anything other than the forest around me, and that was good enough. That's actually all I really wanted. But after the sun was up, I came back into my room and I thought about going back to bed. Nope, time for a shower. I got cleaned up, brushed my teeth, and that's when it hit me. I was disappointed because I forgot why I started all of this, you know? Like I didn't leave from California to start a YouTube channel. It's the last thing on my mind. I didn't even, I've never even subscribed to anybody until I started this channel. And now people that are subscribing back, man, because that's cool. Now I get it, but before I didn't really get it. Never really cared to get it. Didn't really need to get it, you know? But I wrote a book on how I worked through my trauma and what it taught me about myself and the world around me, right? And I did that because I almost took my life at least a dozen different times that I could think about. And probably way more if I count how reckless I've been since I got back from Baghdad. I wrote a book because I'm certain there's someone else out there that's going through what I went through. And I finished the book because I thought if just one person reads it and it makes a change for them or helps them make a change, then I've served my purpose here on earth, right? Saving one life has a compounding effect that is difficult to conceptualize and articulate. I spent a great deal of time staring at my laptop trying to figure out how I would write that up. And really, it's it, man. It's hard to even imagine if you can stop one person from ending it, the ripple effect that would have. So that was a motivating force for me. That's my, you know. But I forgot all that. For some reason, I don't know why. I think trying to keep up and remember and meet and retain, and I started writing stuff. I mean, when I say I've been taking notes, y'all, I'm taking, I don't know. I started writing. I mean, I'm just writing and writing and writing as much detail as I can remember, right? Why? Well, I'll tell you. But if I can affect one change, then that's good enough for me. And then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. I've already made so many meaningful connections. Yeah, like right now, current, to date, right now, boom. Every single one of you that I've met that's followed along, that's listened for 52 minutes now. Wow. I've had 2 people text me today that I've inspired them and that they've made big changes in their life and that they're taking a risk and they're going on an adventure and they're leaning into their fear. Man. My friend Eric asked me twice now, if I'm not mistaken. 3 times, Eric? When my book's gonna be done, right? Man, somebody wants to read something I wrote. Like, it's very humbling. Because when I started writing it, I was like, my ego, nobody's gonna read this. Nobody cares about your story, Matt, you know? Maybe nobody does, I don't know. But if something I say resonates with one of you and you make some changes in your life, that's cool, man. I'm honored to be a part of that, truly. So thank you. And thank you for telling me, you know what I'm saying? That takes a certain amount of courage too. And I appreciate that because it means a lot to me. And it inspires me to continue to do what I'm doing, so. But I am on such a high right now, it's incredible. And I don't have to get my hopes up for anything. God has a plan, and as long as I continue to walk in His light and to be honest with Him about my sin, He'll continue to bless me with His light. That's what I feel. I've played this game with God before. He got me through Iraq, and when I got home, I stopped talking to Him and started calling old Jack Daniels every single night. Point is, I veered from His path, and my life has been chaos for over 2 decades now. So God made me realize I've served my purpose, and I can continue to serve my purpose. I no longer need to worry. This is my mission. There goes my headphones. Audio might be a little different. All right. longer need to worry. This is my mission. There's no rush. I don't need to ride 22 hours through the night anymore. The word will reach who it needs to reach, when it needs to reach them, because I'm doing my part. All I have to do now is walk my walk. Plain and simple. Perhaps this YouTube is the best thing that's happened to me. Thanks again, Ben, for the push. I vow to hold myself accountable for myself and for anyone else who's following along. So I'm going to be doing things a little bit different as I move forward. I post a lot on my Instagram because at the time, or in my head on this trip, with the way the momentum took place, I thought it was the easiest way for me to keep chronological track of everything. But I may have found a better way to do so, and I'm going to be exploring that. And when I say I have no idea what I'm doing, I mean it. This was a road trip to bury my grandpa that has evolved into a calling from God. I'm answering. I'm not looking back. I'm leaning into this with everything I have. And there's really no need to look back, right? There's nothing in the rearview mirror for me. I'm going to keep down my path. I'm going to keep spreading love and light. I'm going to continue to treat my body as a temple that does occasionally drink beer. Not all the time. And never in excess. And I'm going to connect with my fellow neighbors around the country. Let me see here. I'm trying to find some structure in all of this so it makes sense. Bear with me as I try to figure it out. My plan is to do at least one video a week moving forward, but my priority is to walk the path I'm on, which means I need to plan accordingly. And I need to be present. It's hard to do it all. I can't continue as I've been doing it. It's probably been a lot for everybody to keep up with, and I'm sorry for blowing up everybody's feed, but I'm gonna burn out, and that's not safe to do when you're riding a motorcycle fast. So I'm gonna focus on being present and capturing moments I can with my camera, but where I excel is on the keyboard. God gave me the ability to articulate my thoughts, so I'm gonna do it. I've started writing more, and it feels amazing. I probably spent 5 or 6 hours writing today, just documenting every little detail like a CID agent would about what I've experienced. And I feel like that's going to be the path. So as I move city to city and make connections, I'm going to keep saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, but I'm not going to be overloading my social medias, and I'm going to save the juicy, the good content, or what people want to talk about for my weekly videos. And a side note on that, I have already had one friend call me and ask how to deal with grief, right? So we had a phenomenal conversation that I wrote down the key points, and I want to share that with you guys, but we're pushing an hour, so I'll save that. But if anybody else has anything, drop them in the comments, shoot me a message or text me, call me. I'm here at this point in my life. I'm available to anybody who wants to call. Let me see here. Let's make sure I don't miss anything. So it's so much easier to write it all down as I go than to try to remember every single detail and then do all these videos and stuff, right? So I'm just gonna I got a little bit lost on my journey here because I didn't really know where I was going, but now I know where I'm at and what I'm doing, and I know what I can bring to the table and what I'm going to be doing moving forward. So there should be a little less chaos and a little more structure while I'm out here riding around on my Harley, right? So thank you for following along this long and giving me the time, space, and patience to work through my stuff as transparent and as authentically as I can. It's been a pleasure meeting all of you, and thank you for giving me the space to tell you a little bit about myself. And thank you for everybody back home who's helping me so I can be out here on this journey. God bless you all, and don't effing die. Mr. Wolford, signing off.